Hi, everyone. I hope you're having good Lent. What do I mean by that? I think a Lent where you're finding more time for prayer, more time for thinking of yourself and your ministry and the people you love, and where is God in all of that? And for me, I'm finding it, I've been giving some gifts. I was on a women's retreat this weekend, and it was wonderful because it was mixed ages and it took place in my parish. And what I came away with, one of the things I came away with is it gave me hope to see these young women, these young moms, those who were that were present there, searching and looking and wanting, but not sure where to go. Because as one said, the world isn't giving us much these days. I thought that was very profound. And just to see people seeking God, just when you think, I wonder if anybody really even cares, here are these women who are tired of the superficial. That's what one of them said, and looking to share their faith in more depth with each other. So it was very, for me, as a woman who's been in ministry for so many years and a mom myself and a grandmother now, it just really gave me hope. And I was able to share this weekend with one of my daughters-in-law. So as I said to her, Shayna, you may be my daughter-in-law, you may be my son's wife, you may be my grandchildren's mother, but first of all, we are sisters in Christ. And for the two of us, that was just put a whole new, we have always had a great relationship, but just added something so special to it that will never be forgotten. So it kind of even cemented us more. And as women, I think for those of us who are women involved in ministry, we certainly need that. Not even involved in ministry, just being who we are. So that was I just wanted to share that little bit with you. So yesterday I met with my little disciples, who are now 11, and we met for this coming Sunday, which is the fourth Sunday in Lent. I can't believe how far it's going. And I pointed out to them in the top corner of the front of the front page of whatever it is, it not only gives the date, but it also has a little thing written in there, says Laetare Sunday. And if you kind of missed it, don't want to miss that. You want to be able to explain it to them. It's kind of like Gaudete Sunday that happens in Advent. Laetare Sunday happens in Lent, and the word means rejoice. So I asked them, I said, why should we be rejoicing in Lent? And they had it. They said, because we know eventually, Jesus is going to, we're going to celebrate Jesus's resurrection. I said, there you go. So that was good. So we talked about the lesson. We had an opening prayer. I talked to them about their prayer life and how it's going, and they think it's going fine. And I said, okay, just keep putting your little papers. If you remember, I asked them to put little papers aside, anything that they feel they had a fault, or they might have had a sin, or they may want to do better, and to put them all together, because we'll do something with that at the end of, before Easter when we meet again. And so we talked about this gospel coming this Sunday has to do with Jesus healing the blind man and all the questions that came with it, and from the Pharisees, and even his own disciples are questioning, what are you doing? He's doing this on the Sabbath. And what I found with this particular gospel passage, it opened up a lot of discussion in all different ways, or gave us the opportunity to revisit some of the things, to remember, again, something you've already heard. Let's give it deeper meaning. So, for example, we talk about, the blind man and the pool at Siloam. Where did we hear about that before? And that's where Jesus had healed the paralyzed man before. So we talked about that. We talked about, just again, the idea of Jesus as healer, and why miracles? Why now? Building up towards the coming of, to remind us of getting us ready for the resurrection of Easter Sunday. So we also talked about, what do you believe in? That came in, and the younger grades even have, it's pointing towards believing in Jesus. And how do we believe in something we don't see? And sometimes that can be difficult with little children, but maybe not so much, because especially if they still believe in Santa Claus, or they believe in the tooth fairy, depending on how young they are, they might be able to make that correlation. but eventually we're going to have to get to the point where Jesus is very different from Santa Claus and the tooth fairy. But the same idea of believing in something you don't see, which is a big deal in terms of faith. And as we get older, we know that we recognize that more and more. When we struggle with that or grapple with that, it certainly is a reality for many of us. As I said before, this gospel brings about a lot of things to talk about on the sidebars, as I would say. And we talked about, when Jesus is reprimanded by the Pharisees for performing a miracle on Sabbath, what is the Sabbath? Who celebrates the Sabbath? What day of the week do the Jews celebrate it? What day of the week do Christians celebrate it? So it brought in a lot of information that, like I said, we were able to revisit. And I'm all in favor for, repetition. If you can do it, not only just to have repetition, but to make it make sense, make it feel connected. And that's what we're all about. I think this whole idea of what we're doing in terms of faith formation is helping all of us feel connected, not only to each other and not only to God, but to everything, the day to day. And where is God in the day to day? And I think, there's some exercises you can always do, or even the younger children ask, where do you feel close to God? Who is God? And as they get older, you can really kind of run with that topic. So we also got into the Old Testament reading for this Sunday, and it's about David becoming king. And the fact he was only 12 years old, but of course they, took that. And I said, could you imagine being a king or queen of the whole land? And that wasn't gonna, But what I also like too, we went into one of the Psalms, which we believe David is the author. So there again, you have that connection. And the whole idea, and I think that's really well done in terms of the program. We did our closing prayer, and I took it from from the program itself. And I kind of fixed, not chopped it. I kind of revised it a little bit so that it made sense to them, because I really believe we should always close with a closing prayer around together with the candle. I think that's important. So when we finished that, I also, I had them, and I like to do this, and I think you've heard me say this before, the lesson, I always like to give them a video of what we just did, let them see it, especially if you're a visual learner. I think that helps. So what I did yesterday was I just type in the gospel passage, like John 4, 1-41 kind of thing, and it comes up, and if it has a song, if it has a prayer or a video, always age appropriate. Again, there's quite a few animated, and of course, Flom offers them as well. And so they get it. It gets, again, cemented. It's a repeat, but they get to see it visually, what we just talked about. But I also wanted yesterday was to close with a song. And whenever I do a song with them, I make sure the lyrics can be seen so they can follow it, because they're older, obviously, and they like that. It's not just a song. You don't have to concentrate as much to try to listen, but you can also see it. So the song I chose yesterday, after I was searching YouTube, I came across the Christian group, singing group, or the musical group, Casting Crowns. And I know they have some really good stuff. And they have a song called Healer. And I liked it. I liked the melody. The kids liked it. But what I want to do next week, there are 2 points that song brought out. And we didn't get a chance to really delve into it because we just didn't have the time. And maybe, well, what I usually do is, I mostly do, when we begin our lesson after our prayer, I always say, kind of repeat some of the points from the week before, just to kind of make that connection, segue into the new lesson. And there were 2 phrases that jumped up at me with this song that I want to review with them next week. And because there's so much more, we didn't really get into what does it really mean to be blind? We saw the literal blindness of this man and his getting healed. What does it mean to be blind in our hearts? And I wanted to get into and I was frustrated with that. We didn't have the time. So I decided next week, we'll just revisit it, and I'll bring up these 2 phrases. And these are the 2 phrases. The first one was, we've been trusting in the broken to make us whole. We've been trusting in the broken to make us whole. It was about, we don't need another hero. We need Jesus. because Jesus is not broken. And sometimes we tend to trust in those who are broken. And I remember years ago doing a retreat with high school teenagers, and there was a piece of it that we talked about, heroes, people on pedestals fall, and no one is human, and no human person is perfect. So at, they're always at the mercy of falling, and that we can't believe in them anymore. And I think we've seen enough of that. We can see that since we were kids, probably. So that was the one thing that I want to discuss with them next week. And then the other phrase was this: let the eyes of our hearts be open to the healing we need. Let the eyes of our hearts be open to the healing that we need. For kids, even unless you start to get into in adolescence, the idea of healing, they may not feel they need it at this point. And they maybe not, but to get that idea across to them. And but I want to discuss that with them next week, because as you know, this gospel is not just about, again, literally this man who was born blind to be healed. It has to do with the blindness we bring on ourselves, or may have ourselves. How do we break through that blindness to really see Jesus for who Jesus is? Because that's what he wants for us. And all that goes with that, all the grace that goes with that, all the wonderful things that go with that help to make us disciples and just lovers of Christ, and to be open to the love Christ has for us. So that was our week. It was, again, another gospel, saying, John is doing, with his gospels, they're really something, but they're deep. They're much deeper than just the literal. What I love about it too is that children would tell me this Sunday when they went to mass, again, this feeling of having ownership of the gospel when they're just there, or the readings, because I have them read all the readings before we even get together, just to prepare themselves. So they were familiar, and it just gives them, and they're very intent now. This is what's really I love to the homily, they started to get a little critical, which is, Father could have said this, but I said, okay, well, we'll discuss that. But I just find that interesting. He didn't say that. So I just find that humors me, and which is cute. So they're getting there, they're growing, they're maturing. And so we go on to this coming Sunday, the fourth Sunday in Lent, Latari Sunday. And I hope you have a good week, and I hope your Lent continues to be all that you would like it to be. Take care.